The AFC South showdown didn't go in favor for Houston, and their 3-game winning streak is snapped. What went wrong for the defense? What went wrong for the offense? And we'll take a look at moving forward. Until next week.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers, to a Monday episode, not a Victory Monday, but a Monday's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners and viewers out there. If this is your first time, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And to all our returning listeners coming back for another episode, thank you for taking your time out to lend your ear to Talk Texans for another day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I am your Texans press box football analyst, might I add. But John, some sports guy Hickman, and of course, my co-host, excuse me, Sports Illustrated's own credential media member, Cody Davis.
Hey, you forgot my name?
I'm sorry. I forgot your name, and the Texans forgot how to close out games. But we're going to look at what went wrong for the offense. Let's kick it off with what went wrong defensively. Cody, I got an idea of what you may mention. Tavier Thomas allowing in terms of yards and in penalty yards over 120 yards on a day. Rough day for Tavier Thomas. First time we've said that all year. He's been a solid player for that Houston Texans defense. But defensively, you know, with your eyes, all four of them, what did you see that went wrong for the Houston Texans defense on Sunday?
Penalties, man. Look, I'm not about to sit here and say that the refs cost the Texans a game. I'm never a believer in that, because I do feel as long as you still have a chance and an opportunity, like we saw on Sunday, I do. But I never want to blame the ref. You know, they're doing their job, but I must admit, I did not like the job that they did. And to be honest with you, John, listeners and viewers, they did not get called for that many penalties. I mean, they only got called for 7 on the day. However, it was the timing.
Costly, though.
That's what I was about to say.
Third down penalties and a touchdown penalty.
That's what I was about to get to. You know, 7 penalties on the day. That's not much. That's about the average. That's probably what you may want to see. However, it was the timely cost of those penalties. Out of those 7, 4 came on third down and 2 set up first and goal, man. Penalties really destroyed the Houston Texans on the defensive side of the ball. But outside of penalties, man, I'm going to go with injuries. And the next thing I'm going to bring up, when I say injuries, I'm looking at Jimmy Ward. They definitely miss Jimmy Ward today because the Houston Texans gave up too many big plays. As a matter of fact, they gave up 8 plays of 15 or more yards, and out of those 8 plays, 4 of them was 40 or more. Here's the breakdown of that. Out of those 4 plays, the Houston Texans gave up a total of 186 yards, 17 points. The only drive that they did not score when they gave up 40 or more was to close out that first half when Desmond King got their stop. But John, there was just too many big plays that the Texans gave up, and I truly believe that is what ultimately went wrong for this defense.
I do want to mention that I'm on the same page almost, Cody. I'm not going to blame the refs, though. The Tank Dell catch on the sideline.
Oh my God!
If we are able to see, if we can see this with our cameras, our phone cameras, the NFL should be able to see those as well.
And they got like how many cameras in there?
I'm sorry?
They got how many cameras in the stadium? About 40 or 50 of them?
Man, more than that, right? And you also got to look at some of those ghost holding calls that helped out the Jacksonville Jaguars offensively on Tavier Thomas. And Steven Nelson had one. And I thought that it was a lot of tic-tac calls for a team that was at home. You do look at the call that allowed the Jacksonville Jaguars. Houston was able to force them and being not break defense, so they would have kicked the 3, but that allowed one of those calls for the Jacksonville Jaguars to go and score a touchdown on that drive. And so you're looking at a different game. Also, you're looking at a different game when you're looking at Amendola missing the field goal early in the game, and then, of course, as of late. But defensively, the Jags were 7-13 on third downs. Okay, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
The Jags had a total of 445 yards on the day, 364 yards through the air. All right, that's not good. Now, defensively, the Houston Texans did hold the Jacksonville Jaguars to 2.7 yards per carry on the ground, 81 total yards on 30 carries. They did a very good job, which Houston Texans have been able to do so in the past 4 to 5 games, 6 games actually now, including this one, stopping the run. But a goose egg. And you want to know where that goose egg came from? Trevor Lawrence had all day at times to sit back and pick the Texans defense because of the lack of pressure. And today, it was beyond frustrating. The Jags are a team this season that will allow sacks. The Jags starting tackle, Cam Robinson, speedy recovery to him, went out in the first quarter. And you're looking at that as an opportunity and advantage for the Houston Texans, and it was not. For 3 quarters, it was not. For 4 quarters, but especially after Cam Robinson went down, the Houston Texans were not able to breathe on Trevor Lawrence's neck. That's an issue because you are still playing a quarterback, regardless of how many of us feel, right? Generational, not generational, game manager. We've seen all of the different names that Trevor Lawrence can be called.
Mm-hmm.
But he is still an NFL quarterback of a 7-3 team going into that game, who was a former number 1 quarterback, who you still have to put pressure on. Every quarterback in the league, you need pressure on them. And I think we are going to maybe overanalyze the secondary and look and say, well, you guys allow, 300 and whatever many yards. But when you have a quarterback that isn't getting touched, that isn't getting a finger leg, he didn't even get pinched. Did you at least pinch the quarterback? That didn't happen. That is a huge issue. And I think that is what hurt Houston defensively, not being able to get into the face of the quarterback. And I'm going to take it a step further and say the Houston Texans defensive front, specifically the defensive tackles, they were non-existent. And we've seen games show the rankings with 3 sacks, right? Malik Collins having the big games, right? I did not see the defensive tackles create any pressure for that D-line, and Trevor Lawrence had a lot of time throughout the day to sit there and be able to kind of pick apart that defense on crossing routes. A lot of those were just right in the middle of the field, giving your wide receiver room to run. Today, I think, was an opportunity where we saw, because of the injuries to the linebacker core. By the way, we talk about what went wrong, what went right for the defense. Christian Harris had another great game for Houston. He is stacking these up now. He is really putting together a good resume for the second half of this season. Just want to continue to see him build on that. Blake Cashman also was good for Houston. Derek Stingley was good for Houston today. He had a good play on the sideline. A lot of people thought that was a bad play by Derek Stingley. But as a cornerback, you utilize the sideline, right? You don't come down with them 2 feet. I did my job. Also had an interception. So he played well today. We're going to look at Tavier Thomas. Tavier did have a bad day, right? I'm not going to say the refs was just kind of doing everything and messing him over. He had a bad day. But I don't want to get to the blame game, but I do want to say that the front 4 has to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Will Anderson played well, but I did not think the D tackles played good for Houston today. Cody, I don't know how many times I sat in that press box and I thought to myself, where's Rankins? Where's Collins? Where are the disruptors in the middle that will force a quarterback to bounce out, and you will see John Grenard, who I didn't necessarily hear a lot of today, or Will Anderson get those sacks because of the interior pressure up front? I thought that was an issue for the Houston Texans defense. Hey, when you are looking to hire for your small business, you want to be as many candidates, top tier candidates. You want to be able to interview the best possible candidates out there. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has all of the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Post a job online at linkedinjobs.com. Then add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your profile. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network, more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy. In fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. One day, guys. If you have a small business out there, you are looking to hire quickly to get your business off the ground or to build what you already have in process, LinkedIn is probably the best way for you to go, man. And with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions quickly, making the process even easier. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And I also would love to tell you guys about BetterHelp. This episode is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Listen, sometimes, especially around this time of year, it's natural to feel sadness and anxiety just in the holiday season, right? It can be a lot around this time of year, but adding something new and more so positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot, amid all of the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded and to give you the tools you need to manage everything going on. I'm a huge advocate of therapy simply because it works for me. And I think that this is a tool that can help you kind of relieve, again, some of that stress that you may be holding on to. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP, BetterHelp.com/lockedon. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. A lot of you guys are pissed off, rightfully so. This was a winnable game. Really quick, Christian Harris, 12 total tackles on the day, 7 solos, 1 tackle for loss. Steven Nelson, 6 tackles, 6 total tackles, 2 pass deflections. Derek Stingley, 5 tackles, 2 pass deflections, and an interception. And again, the sad number that I'm looking at is that big goose egg, 0. No sacks on the day for the Houston Texans. 5 tackles for loss, 6 pass deflections. Again, this was a winnable game. It came down to the wire. And it probably shouldn't have had to. Again, you make the field goal earlier. It's a different type of game. Now you may be playing for overtime or have more confidence in C.J. Stroud on that 4th and 12 play that a lot of people was looking at the sideline thinking put your best player out on the field to make a play, which would have been C.J. Stroud. And we look at what went wrong for the offense. Cody, I'm going to tell you what one of those things that went wrong. What has the Houston Texans been able to do the last 2 weeks?
Run the football.
Okay, so when you come into this game, now granted, the Texans did take on, I think, the number 4th ranked rushing defense in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They are a good run defense, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 carries for Devin Singletary, I think, is unacceptable. You didn't give him an opportunity to really get him going. The Texans did rush for 91 yards on the day on 18 carries, 5.1 yards per carry, 1 TD, but the bulk of that came from 47 yards from C.J. Stroud, right? But I think 6 carries is unacceptable. Also, again, don't want to blame the refs too much, but the refs did not get the call right for Tank Dell. That was a momentum killer. That was a drive killer. And at one point in that first half, as a matter of fact, I have the number here because I was completely disgusted with how the Texans were going about some of these drives. They came out flat. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're
offensively. Did
right.
the Texans not come out flat? And for the most part, they were flat. 3 of the 5 drives. Now, one of those drives ended in 7. The other drive ended in a missed field goal. 3 of those 5 drives, 4 plays, 16 yards. 3 plays, -1 yard. 6 plays, 14 yards. Right? The second half was totally different. The second half for Houston looked more like the first halves for Houston in the past couple of weeks, but they came out flat offensively, very flat offensively, in a must-win game. Now Houston, they lost this game. The Colts won. They sit at 3 into the division right now. I still believe that they will make the playoffs, and I still think that they have a chance to win the division. But I believe that this game was lost 2 drives before the end drive. Cody, we were sitting in the press box. It was myself. It was Cody Davis, as you guys see here, every Monday through Friday. Alongside of him was Miss Kim. What's Miss Kim last name? Davis. Kim Davis. It was the 2 Davises, and it was Big Sarge Media and Texas Wire, Brian Bearfield. Mm-hmm. On 3rd and 1, the Houston Texans decide to not run the ball. On 4th and 1, and this is still in their territory, by the way, the Houston Texans decide to not only run the ball, but CJ Stroud decided to throw the ball downfield to a Dalton Schultz, who, by the way, did not look like he was running full speed. The route he ran looked very much lethargic, and I think that's where the game was lost. 2 plays right there where it was a must-score drive. Whether it was 7-3, whether it was a TD or a field goal, that was a must-score drive for the Houston Texans in that 4th quarter, midway through the 4th quarter. And they just – the 2 boneheaded play calls, I believe. I thought that CJ was good on the day for the most part. I'm going to criticize him a little bit, actually a lot of bit, and I think rightfully so. And that's okay, because what do we always say here, Cody? He'll learn from his mistakes. Mm-hmm. But that last drive, the amount of hits and sacks that he took unnecessarily is what killed that Texans drive. He made some very good throws and plays on that drive, but a lot of the dancing around unnecessarily, a lot of the just in the backfield, holding on the ball too long, and then not getting rid of it immediately when that pressure is directly in your face, hindered the Houston Texans from winning. And I do want to say that Bobby Slow, with the Jags playing the way that they were playing defensively, a screenplay would have been great, maybe to Devin Singletary or Dameon Pierce, where you would have gotten the defenders. They were already back. You could have got your offensive lineman out in space. And at that point, that would have been a great call if you were playing for 3. And if you just so happen to roll off a big one, then you have an opportunity to go get 7 and win the game.
This is the main reason. This game was the perfect reason as to why I feel Bobby Slowick is going to be in Houston a lot longer than what a lot of people expect.
Because a lot of people 1 year, 1 and done.
1 year, 2 years. Look, Bobby Slowick has a lot of potential, and I'm still all in on Bobby Slowick. But this game, John, the 2 calls that you just pointed out, is part of the reason why we are still looking at a young offensive coordinator still trying to find his way. And there's nothing wrong with that, because what have I been saying throughout this whole entire season, ever since the hiring of D'Amico Ryans? This is going to be a year for learning and development. And I guarantee you, this time next year, hopefully, if Bobby Sloyd learns from his mistakes, we would not be sitting here talking about boneheaded plays like that. Understand a lot of calls he's going to make in the future, we probably are going to forever question. But there is no reason in the world why we are sitting up in the press box and you and Sarge are calling for Nico on a particular play, and we can see it clear as day, but unfortunately Bobby Slowick decides to go another route, and that's why you got so many 3 and outs this game. So since you talked about all those, John, the one thing I'm gonna say about Bobby Slowick that I want him to do is stick to what works best. Because when you take a look at this Texans on a 3-game win streak, he was aggressive. But in this game, he was flat, conservative. And I get it. Maybe he decided to change up his approach because from the very opening drive, I can tell the offensive line was going to have a terrible day. CJ Stroud got sacked 4 times, and maybe that was part of the reason why he felt maybe I should really back
on CJ Stroud. By the way,
I say 1 for sure. I don't know about 2. I don't know about 2. We got to go back and look at the film on that because I know there was one play. I think it was in the third. Midway through the third, he was holding on to the ball way too long, and then he was like running around and stuff. It was like, CJ, what are you doing? And I get it. He was trying to extend the play, try to extend the drive, but it was just one of them situations he would have just been better off just throwing it away. But when I look at Bobby Slowick, it's just no consistency in his play call because, John, to your point, what has the Houston Texans been doing good over the last 2 weeks? Running the ball. And regardless of how we feel about Dameon Pierce, I'm a huge fan of Dameon Pierce. Have had multiple opportunities to chop it up with him at his locker. You talked to him before he even became a Houston Texan.
Love Dameon Pierce.
We all
contrary to what people believe. I love Dameon Pierce.
We all appreciate, admire, love, respect Dameon Pierce to the fullest. However, it is a what have you done for me lately type of league. And whether fair or unfair, Dameon Pierce has not looked good this season, which means even when he's coming back from injury, why are you going away from Devin Singletary, a guy who has rushed for over 200 yards over the last 2 games? It just doesn't make sense. And I get it. You can still say, okay, well, Cody, you just say the offensive line looked bad. Titus Howard went down, and you put in rookie Juice Scruggs, and that who hasn't played
football.
And I know that kind of messed up the camaraderie that offensive line has built over the last couple of weeks. But at the end of the day, that still doesn't make sense as to why Bobby Slowick went away from Devin Singletary. Here's the next thing.
It wasn't even a shot. No, I just want to. He didn't really give him a shot to get going. I think that's what's probably frustrating. At least 10 carries you like to see from Devin Singletary, who has ran the ball very well for Houston.
And to piggyback off of an earlier point that I made, just sticking to what works. John, I know it's still early in this young man's career, but if it's 4th and 12, 34 seconds left, wouldn't it be in your best interest to trust CJ Stroud because you have that quarterback? I get it. The offensive line has looked bad. CJ didn't look good at times this game, but it just made sense to me to trust your quarterback and not let Matt Amendola try to kick a 58-yard field goal when early on in this game, he missed a 50-yarder and his career best is a 48-yard. And even CJ Stroud himself said it after the game. You know, they was talking to him about Amendola's missed field goal. He said, look, that's a miss on us because we should have put him in a better position to make the field goal. I get it. I understand it. But that type of situation, I'm like, look, really quick, take a trip with me, John. Let's go back to 2021 and get the second half version of Davis Mills, the one I was excited about, where he threw for over 2,000 yards, about 10 touchdowns, 1 or 2 interceptions or whatever. That was the best version of Davis Mills that we've seen. Let's bring that version of Davis Mills into this game. If that was Davis Mills, I would have been fine with the call because you not only can you not trust Davis Mills in a situation like that, but you never seen it. How many times have CJ Stroud brought this team back? Look, when they took the field for that final drive, remember I looked at you and said, oh, it's CJ Stroud time. Even if you don't come away with the 7 points, you would have been in a position to put your kicker in a better situation. Whether Matt Amendola, Kaimi Fairbairn, or whoever, he deserved an opportunity to just trust his quarterback. But once again, we'll see him trust his quarterback at times, like against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You trust them and look what happens. And then you go away from it and look what happened. We're sitting here now with the Houston Texans sitting at 6-5. That's just me. I just don't understand it at times.
I do want to say Houston was 6 of 13 on third downs, and how I mentioned that they were not able to really establish drives early in the game, early in the first half, actually, and how flat they were. The Houston Texans lost the time of possession battle 34 actually to 26. They are not the time of possession battle winners of the season, but the differential in time, that's 8 minutes compared to 1 minute. So now you're looking at an additional 7 minutes where offensively you're not able to get into a groove or rhythm. And that's 7 minutes taken away from you being able to put points on the board. But there's also 7 minutes, that extra minutes that your defense is out on the field, having to go up against an offense that had Trevor Lawrence, but did not get any pressure on him. So I think that's a big issue as well. I do see some improvement. Houston was 3 of 3 in the red zone, scoring touchdowns. So what went wrong? What went right? Listen to me, don't listen to me. Prestige Worldwide. All right, listen. So it's my time to tell you about Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, where it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick the more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You sit back and watch the winnings roll in. Now, me and Prize Pick, we are in a complicated relationship. Because am I winning money? Absolutely. But I'm always like a player stat projection away, right? And so I feel like this is my week to hit big, and I'm going to sit back and really watch the winnings roll in. I'm going to tell you how I can do that, make it a little bit easier for myself. With the basketball season here, I can now, so can you, pick combo projections across football and basketball from special leagues. A league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, do I think, I don't know, Jalen Green and Travis Kelce could combine for a 10.5 combo on 3 points made and receptions? Well, Jalen Green's getting a little hot right now, so we'll see how that can play out. You can also play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players, like rapper Meek Mill. I'm a boss. You can be a boss too. And comedian Andrew Schultz. You can now find community plays under the promo tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Go to your phone, pick your phone up right now. You sit on your phone anyhow, right? Your life passes you by. You're thinking to yourself, maybe I'll download next year. Maybe I'll download next week. No, download Prize Picks right now. Or you can go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Either you download it or you go to the website. Make sure you use promo code LockedOnNFL, LOCKEDONNFL, which stands for the No Fun League, for a deposit match up to $100. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of the Locked On family, and of course our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to hear for the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Cody, moving forward, how can the Houston Texans be better? They were on the top of the world. Wild card spot. CJ MVP got a chance to kind of, in their own way, slay Goliath. They lost in a close game. They lost by 3. And even in that game, this was a team that had a chance, a puncher's chance, a fighter's chance, because of their quarterback, right? Because of some of their playmakers. Moving forward, how can the Houston Texans win? I do want to mention this. I love the what should have been 7-1-3 connection between CJ and Tank Dell. But today, at times, 2 things. I saw more opportunities for CJ to pull it and run, where it would have been more beneficiary for him to do that instead of forcing the throw to maybe Tank Dell. And I also saw more opportunities early in the game. Now, we did see him get it started late in the game, and he ended up leading the team in receiving yards. But early in the game, getting Nico Collins involved, along with, for Bobby Sloak, you're talking about the consistency of things. I think it's time to fully take the handcuffs off of John Mechie. Fully take it off. Also, moving forward this week in practice, the battle of safety. Because with Desmond King here in Houston, if you remember last week, I said I think signing Desmond King was an indication on how long Jimmy Ward may be out for Houston. To see what Houston Carson and Desmond King, how will they play out for Houston as a deep safety for this team defensively, or how they're going to move forward, because this isn't the same Jalen Petrie, but Jalen Petrie is a better player when he's A, in the box, around the line of scrimmage, and B, when Jimmy Ward's on the field, but Jimmy Ward has not been on the field, and so we haven't got an opportunity to see a lot of that. I liked what I saw from Derek Stingley today. Want to continue to see him build on that. Moving forward, I love what you said about Bobby Sloyd, consistency. Moving forward, the challenge this week, and I don't want the coach who's done a phenomenal job to not receive any criticism, because 0 sacks, and I'm not sure, maybe 2 or 3 pressures on the day, that has to be improved. This team, they have to find ways to get after the quarterback, because if they don't, you are going to see 7-13, 34 minutes time of possession. That's going to continue to be a Achilles heel for Houston, and I think the Texans need to monitor Laremy Tunsil and that knee injury. I've been saying this for the last 3 weeks now, on and off the show, deeply off the show, but this is not the same Laremy Tunsil. And Laremy Tunsil struggled today. Now, granted, Juice Scruggs is a rookie playing alongside him, which is why I thought keeping the lineup exactly how it was would have been best for Houston, because they finally got some continuity. So I think that played a role in it, and the Jacksonville Jaguars were able to smell blood, because especially in that second half, when you saw Titus Howard go down at whatever point that was, you saw them throw a lot of those deep tackle stunts out there, defensive line stunts out there. But Titus Howard did not have the best of days. And it is looking like, Laremy Tunsil, excuse me. It is looking like that knee injury is much more of an issue than maybe we suspected.
You 100% right about that from what I've been told. But to me, you're looking at a situation, it's another winnable game that they fell short from, another winnable game where they only lost by 3 points. So it's just continuously just learning from the simple, small things. But the biggest thing, moving forward, John, you got to take a look at the playoff picture as of right now, because even though the Texans, they lost, they're still in the hunt, as we see as of right now. This playoff picture is taking, in the mix of the Baltimore Ravens Chargers game being taken on, starting right now. So I believe the Baltimore Ravens will come away victorious as of right now. At the time of this recording, they're up 13-3. So I'm pretty sure they're just going to take first place by the time this episode released. But Houston Texans 6-5, they are still in the hunt. However, they have another big game, because Denver Broncos, winners of 5 straight, one of is not the hottest team in the league. And Russell Wilson is reminding people why he was at one time a top 10 quarterback in this league. So another important game moving forward. But, it's just one of them situations, for me, John, it's like, as great as everything has been throughout this whole entire season, this is still a team. They got to finish. But this is still a team that lacks the experience and the development in certain situations. And I think that was one of the biggest keys for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I understand they're still young too, but because they have that extra year over the test return of exactly,
this is a game that ideally
they battle tested already.
Houston. Right, they are. And I think so is Houston, but this was the Texans' first really tough
must-win game since 2019.
No, I think once the playoffs became a reality, every game has been must-win. Mm-hmm. We've seen them win 3 must-win games. But this is why I picked the Texans to have a close game. And I initially had it 27-24 Houston's way. But I had it in between 3 points. And this is the Texans' first tough division game where it matters. And the Jags just came out victorious, right? And they still got some time. Put this graphic up real quick. We need to talk about this later in the week as well. They got to beat the Browns with no Deshaun Watson. They have to beat the Indianapolis Colts the next time they play. They've already beaten the Steelers. And I also think the Steelers, who right now on the high because Matt Canada is no longer their OC, and they decided to put up 400 yards. That's crazy. They were literally waiting for that man to leave. But I think the Steelers are going to fall off. Houston has to take it. They got to win against the Broncos. They got to. And in order for them to win that game, they got to create pressure. We're getting into all that this week. It was a great effort from Houston. They lost down the stretch. But we're going to continue to talk Texans and cover your team every day here on the Locked On Texans podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Give me a holla, follow at John_Hickman12 on Twitter. Follow the Locked On Texans page as well on Twitter at Locked On Texans. I don't think nobody should be necessarily discouraged. It's one of those games where either team could have won or lost the way that they did.
That's true.
We've seen Houston 3 times in a row win some of those games the way the other teams lost. So they still can make this playoffs, which I think all that matters. Kudos to the fans. They showed up and showed out in NRG Sunday.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, it's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.